Just where were the Calgary Flames at this time last year?
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. And make sure you're subscribing to Locked On Flames because, hello, what are you doing? We're here for you, your team, every day. And we are available on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Today, we are going to be turning back the time machine, getting in our time machine, turning it back, and then jumping back in it to today and looking ahead, looking at our crystal ball, because there's been a lot of change. And treat this like you would a good old venting session with your friend, because the Flames and Flames fans have been through quite a lot over the last year. And I don't really know if any of us have entirely talked about it. Like, have any of us processed through everything? Like, obviously we've talked about it, but have we truly talked about it? I feel like we just kind of scraped the surface, but let's dive right into this. This time last year, the Flames had just been eliminated by their biggest rivals, the Edmonton Oilers, and it was a rough series. I look back on that series not very fondly, to be entirely honest, for obvious reasons, but at least game one kind of gave us a little bit of hope. Neither goalie was stopping a beach ball, a train, anything that came their way. It was really, really bad. And of course, the same time, you lose Chris Tanev, who had a separated shoulder and a torn labrum. And at one point, it was reported that he had a sprained spine or a sprained neck, and then that was retracted immediately when people were like, why is he allowed to play? Why are we allowing this? But it wasn't, at least that wasn't an official injury that they had released. I don't know. That whole situation was a lot, but we know how I feel about team doctors. We know how the league views players. They're just a pawn. But anyways, Markstrom was cooked. He was like a well-done steak. Burnt. You weren't getting anything out of him. There was no juice left flowing in Jacob Markstrom by the end of that series. By game two, let's be honest. And the Flames were simply suffocated. To put it lightly, I think a lot of people were really excited for that series for, a very good reason. Obviously, being your biggest rival, Battle of Alberta, kind of a big deal. And both teams looked good. And for once, the Flames had adequate goaltending going into the series, and it didn't look like an automatic loss. Did I think it was going to be 5 games? No. Did I think it was going to go 6 or 7? Yes, most people did. Unfortunately, you couldn't stop Leon Draisaitl, even if his left ankle was dangling on by a thread. There was just nothing the Flames could have done to win that series, other than score more goals. But obviously, they couldn't do that. And it was really unfortunate just watching the team leave the ice, knowing what could be happening next. And that, of course, was the reality of things that happened next. But the offseason looked hopeful. There was no indication that Gaudreau was leaving. There was no indication that Tkachuk wanted out. And there really wouldn't be any indication for another like 6 weeks. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I think a lot of people are still kind of like, how did we experience this much turnover in a matter of weeks? I still don't know how that happened all in one summer. It was a lot, but at least you win a playoff round. That I know. People say, well, if you don't win the cup, you don't win anything. The Flames desperately needed to win a round. You aren't winning the cup if you aren't making the playoffs frequently. We've talked about that a lot on the show, especially with Nick. He puts it very well. You don't go into the playoffs and just win a Stanley Cup like on your first try. I mean, we did see it with Vegas. Florida has been, bounced a few times, and this is like a legitimate attempt for them. We've seen it with Tampa. We've seen it, well, not with Toronto, unless like you're an older person listening to this. But, it's very much a repetitive thing, because you don't just get to go into this and have luck on your side for the entire thing. You don't. But anyways, back to the Flames. We knew that Tree Living was rolling out the red carpet for Gaudreau. We knew that this man would have like bedazzled a helicopter for Johnny Gaudreau, rolled out the red carpet, like whatever it took to get this man to sign a deal. Okay, so the efforts were started immediately. Your goalie was buzzing throughout the regular season, so okay, maybe we see that again next year. Your coach was getting the most out of these players, and in a way that you hadn't seen before, and there was something to, really excite you about getting another year of this and another year of good coaching. And you had 2 100-plus point players. Certainly your stars would want to sign extensions here, right? I mean, how could it be more attractive than that? Well, I guess no income tax in Florida looks real good when you're making millions of dollars. And hey, Ohio's wonderful. I've been once. I was very sick. I was 12, but I've heard Columbus is wonderful. It's not in Canada, so you're not dealing with the border and being literally 3,000 miles away from your family. And then we were just left with a roster that we didn't know what we were going to do. And I don't think Daryl Sutter knew what to do with them, because it was fairly obvious this team was not receptive to that. What happened so quickly for things to go downhill like that? Coming up next, we're going to talk about this season in kind of the same way that we just talked about last season, kind of looking at it and examining it from like a bird's eye view, and like picking apart things, and then looking at things we can be hopeful for, because there's one thing I'm going to be, and that is just cautiously optimistic, but especially during the offseason, because anything is possible. But before we do that, I do want to take a quick moment to talk to you about FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, because right now new customers can get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's a whole lot of money, because that's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Wow, that amount of money left me speechless. You can get everything you need on FanDuel. It's safe, it's secure, you get paid instantly. There's a ton of great promotions, not just even for the sports you're just interested in. There's basketball, baseball. During May, there was the Kentucky Derby, so there was a lot of, different promotions going on. And there's no better place to bet all playoffs than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. And thank you, everyone, for sticking around and hanging out with me today. I'm so happy to have you here. This time last year, I feel like so many of us were just so positive. We were so excited. And then every day that went on and closer to free agency without a Johnny Gaudreau contract extension, the nerves were kind of ramped up, right? You were getting rightfully nervous, and then it was announced that it sounded like Gaudreau was going to explore his options in free agency, which did not mean that he wasn't going to resign. It just meant that he wanted to see what else was out there. And he certainly did. It was a lot. People were leaking the reported deals that, the offers, the potential salary, and just a whole lot of nothing came out of it. And we know what happens next. Matthew Tkachuk says, I have no interest in signing here long term, so trade me. And everyone everywhere on his list had no state income tax. I guess too bad there's not a team in New Hampshire. But yeah, it was a very tumultuous time because you were coming off this high from the season. Even if it ended early, you still won a playoff round against a very good Dallas Stars team, and then things just plummeted. And now, here we are, June 1st. The draft's at the end of this month. And you know what? There's a whole new general manager in the front office. Brad Treliving is in Toronto now. Kyle Dubas is in Pittsburgh. And we're doing a whole lot of musical chairs, but there is some fresh blood in the Flames front office. At the seat of the general manager is Craig Conroy. And Craig Conroy has made it very clear that he has a vision for this team, and he wants this team to get younger. He wants this team to be a competitive team. He wants this to be a team that can win. And he wants his goalies to play. And he's made it pretty clear that, there's no point in calling up Dustin Wolf if he's not going to play. Talked about trading Markstrom. Can't really do that. You're not saving really any money by buying him out. And maybe trading Vladar is the best option. But who knows? And of course, Daryl Sutter is out, which means Mitch Love or Ryan Huska probably going to be taking over in some capacity. Kirk Muller is reportedly interviewing with other organizations. He might be going to Columbus. I mean, as long as he's not in Calgary, I'm okay with that. I think it's just time to move on. But Ryan Huska and Mitch Love are probably the favorites among the coaching candidates for the coaching vacancy. And I think that's fair. I think that it makes sense to bring in, maybe both of them at some capacity to work with these players who are going to be making the jump from the AHL to the NHL and getting them integrated with NHL lifestyle, with how, it's not the AHL anymore. It's not college. It's not juniors. You are playing at an elite level. You have, we just heard it with Aiden Hill and how someone from the organization with the Golden Knights was like, buddy, you need to start waking up and realizing where you are. You are in the NHL. You have been traded to us. because we needed a goalie and we need you to do a job. And apparently he made some changes. He started taking it a lot more seriously. And look at him. Look at him now, right? So you need to have someone behind the bench that can motivate your players like that. Craig Conroy did just let Jack Beck walk straight back into the NHL draft since he did not sign him to a contract. There were a few other draftees from last year, or the year before rather, that just are going back to the draft, including Cameron Wynot. And there was another player too. But, for a dwindling prospect pool, a not so great prospect pool, it's kind of tough to see that. Especially from a guy that wants to get this team younger. Why would you just give up on prospects? What does he know that we don't? And ownership clearly wanted a change. I think that has been very clear. From the moment the season ended, players had reportedly put in trade requests. And then all, if not all, a majority of them were rescinded when Daryl Sutter was fired. It's just silly how that works. I think that there's almost like it's almost a cause and effect sort of situation here. I don't know, not a rocket scientist here, but putting two and two together. And another big thing that the Flames really made clear in their exit interviews is that they want a captain. That would have solved a lot of problems last season, because there is another link in the chain of command, if you will. You can't just have, I don't know who, Dylan Dubé going to ownership and being like, this coach sucks. Do you see what he's doing to us? We need a change. You can't do that. You are setting Dylan Dubé up to fail, or whatever player. You're not setting them up. There needs to be a declared voice in the room, appointed by ownership, I guess technically names the captain, I would think. And you really need some sort of distinguished leader, a distinct voice in the room, and someone that can really get things going. And they're going to need that heading into next season with all of this change. We thought there was roster turnover last year. Wait until we're rolling into camp in October, or not October, it'll be like September, late August, early September. And we're gonna see some stuff. Hopefully will not be as horrible and traumatic, even if you will, as last summer. Because coming up next, we are going to take a look into our crystal ball and see what we can look forward to here on Locked On Flames. And thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around. I'm so happy to have you here. You can follow me on Twitter at JessBelmosto, and make sure that you are subscribed to the show on your favorite podcast platforms, and of course on YouTube as well. Throw us a 5-star rating and a nice little review. It doesn't take much, and it means a lot to Nick and I. Last summer was a lot. Last summer was probably the biggest summer in Calgary Flames history, at least in recent years. I don't know. I obviously haven't been here all that long, but I would say last year was absolutely an organizational. There was a lot of things happening last summer that impacted the future of the franchise. And there are still questions heading into this summer. I don't think, it's going to be like a drop in the bucket. I think there's going to be actual changes, and there will be some roster turnover. There are obviously changes happening at all levels of the organization. So you know that ownership wants something new. And they're getting that. But like Craig Conroy has said, we can't go into next season, not this upcoming season, but the following season with 7 UFAs. That is not realistic. What are you going to do? How are you going to proceed? Who are you going to let walk? How can you maximize the most out of these players, whether it be them re-signing or trading them by the deadline? And we've talked about it on the show before. Elias Lindholm, what are you going to do? Do you let him walk because the Flames have a really good season and you need him to keep going for the playoffs, and then you get another first round exit and you bounce, and he walks for nothing? Are you trading Tyler Toffoli because, you got the most out of him? He was just here. He filled the roster spot and did what he needed to do. He had a 73-point season. He didn't just float and coast his way through last year or the year before. But Oliver Kylington, is he going to be back this year? We've seen him skating and posting videos of him training in Sweden, which is really great. But does he have an interest in coming back? And is he, willing to stay in Calgary? Does he want to sign an extension? Can you maximize the return on a player like Noah Hanifin? I don't know. They're certainly not getting roster players because they really do need to find a way to make cap space and make it their friends, because I'm sorry, I don't think anyone is taking an overly friendly team deal to move to Calgary. It took a lot to get Tkachuk out. I'm not saying Noah Hanifin is the same, but players are probably going to be a little stingy. They probably aren't going to want to waive their no movement clause if that's really what the Flames are trying to do. And again, that's just a long shot. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that, of course, it's just going to have to be picks and prospects, because prospects don't cost a lot. The Flames have $1,003,000 or $1.3 million in cap space, and that's not a lot. That is not a lot. And, Lucic's money is coming off the books, but it's already been spent. So we'll have to look forward to that in 9 years when Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar are coming off the books, and Nazem Kadri. It's going to be a long time before we see any sort of cap flexibility, and the Flames are going to have to get creative. But there's always the possibility that things get really, really good because of all this change. There's fresh blood, there's fresh minds. Players are happy with the decisions made. You're going to see them turn a corner because they aren't dealing with the same negativity or same atmosphere as last year. Huberdeau and Weegar are going to get comfortable and situated, so you're going to be seeing more of them. And I think that whoever they bring in for a coaching candidate can probably at least coach them into a wild card spot. I mean, heck, they were almost there this year. And you just have to look at things cautiously from a cautiously optimistic view, but at the same time, it's okay to be excited. It is absolutely okay to want this team next year you want them to be good. Of course, you don't want them to be bad. It's not like you're getting Connor Bedard. And I hope that the Flames make the right decision when it comes to switching up the coaching blood. It's very clear that Gerard Gallant and Peter Laviolette want nothing to do with Calgary, and Calgary does not want to pay Gallant. And that's okay. I've never been more excited to have a cheap owner. If he didn't have $8 million tied up in Daryl Sutter, yeah, I'm sure he would. But not today. And that's okay. But that about does it for today's episode of Locked On Flames. There are so many things to be excited for within this organization, including the AHL team, Calgary Wranglers. So exciting to see a lot of these guys more than likely making the jump to the NHL. And we're going to talk about who it might be and maybe even have one on the show. So thank you so much for sticking around, and make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts. We are available on YouTube as well as your favorite podcasting platforms, and just give us a 5-star rating and a little review. And I will see you tomorrow, where we are just going to continue, hopefully, navigating this off season together. Bye-bye.